Hey there, welcome to a special edition of Statamic Partner Chats. Now, these are usually private, once or twice a month with our partners, but this one's kind of a big deal and wanted to share it with as many people as possible. So in this episode, you're going to see André Bassé from Der Spiegel show how they use Statamic as part of their tech stack to run a giant global media website, really collection of websites and print. So without any further ado, I'm going to send it over to André and hope you enjoy.
All right, thank you very much for this very nice introduction. Thank you for having us today. I think we're a bit short in time. We only have an hour, and we have split the presentation today into two main parts. The first is probably some background information about Polygon and why we have built it with Statamic. And we will also have the time to go through a demo, and Jonas and Wiebke, who are in the call as well here, will show you also some things that we are working on at the moment that are very Statamic related. So make sure that you stay till the end. If you have questions during the presentation, probably drop them in the chat here. We're happy to answer them later on if we have time, or come back to you with any questions, see how we go here. Let me try to share my screen. Let's see how that works. Is that working? Can you see something?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, let's start. Okay. Yes, quick agenda for today. I will talk a little bit about us and what we have built around Spiegel.de. As Jack mentioned, we'll talk about Polygon, what we call our cloud-first CMS system. We'll give you a demo of Statamic and how we use it right now for the Spiegel and the Manager magazine, which is our other brand that we have. And we'll talk about some new Statamic features that we are working on. Okay, some words about us. The Spiegel Tech Lab, we are part of the Spiegel Group. As Jack mentioned, we are very well known in the German-speaking market for Der Spiegel, for the magazine. The magazine was published 1947 for the first time, and we now have a very successful media brand. We reach about 60 million readers every week, and we have about 1,300 employees, mainly located in Hamburg, Germany. We also have an office in Berlin, and obviously we have some journalists out in the field, which are spread around the world, which contribute to the magazine, which obviously is a print magazine, but also we have a very successful online part, which is also now called Der Spiegel. And this is actually what we are showing you today and what we have built for that. Some other numbers, obviously, we have a very good turnaround for a media company, which is not normal at this time, because obviously you all know the situation on advertising. So the main thing we are focusing right now is subscription-based offers around our content, the magazine content, and also some other stuff in audio and video. Let's talk about the Tech Lab for a bit. We are a very small team within the group. We have about 16 people, and we have four main areas. The first one is called Solution Delivery, which you can probably compare with the classical project management and requirements engineering part. So these are the guys that go through the requirements, through the things that we receive from the product teams, from the editorial teams, and try to make a sense out of it and shift that over to the developers. And the developers are mainly organized in three teams: the app development, which is iOS and Android. So we have a native app for all our products. which has a very high focus on web content within the app, but the wrapper, so-called, is a native application, so you receive push notifications and all the other good pieces. We also have a front-end team, which is obviously responsible for the front end and some other tech parts around the magazine websites. And we have a back-end team, which also works very intense on the cloud development architecture and setup. So obviously for us as a media brand, it's very important to have a very reliable service. So into the cloud engineering space, there's a lot of tasks for us in that space, and we try to be up to standard in that area. From a development process, we have what we call an OKR process. You may know that from Google and other companies, so objective key results. Our product teams work in a quarter cycle, so they come up with their objectives, their initiatives within a quarter. Works through the research and analytics part and the design areas, and basically hand over this work as a commissioned work to the technical part, to us, at the tech lab. And what we do then is obviously go through the technical requirements of the request and hand that over to our development teams. So we're in a way decoupled from the product process, which we believe is quite important because we are able to run at a much faster pace. So we don't talk about quarters in our area. We talk about deployment cycle actually on weekly basis. So every week on a Tuesday morning, we deploy new features, stability improvements, everything that we have built. Technically, we would be able to do that actually as a continuous deployment, but we decided to do that on weekly basis, basically to give editorial and other people in the business the opportunity to see what's coming. So you don't want to surprise people every day. In our business, we try to focus that on a weekly deployment circle, so everybody gets informed on a Monday morning what will be rolled out on a Tuesday, and then on Tuesday mornings we roll out all the new features and improvements. The development process is focused on money and quick wins. What does that mean? That means obviously we are a revenue-based company, so subscriber-based features or advertising-based features could actually from a priority be more important than, let's say, design improvements on the site. So we try to focus on that, and we also try to identify tasks that actually quick win for the users. So we try to keep the requirements as small as possible, basically build MVP products, bring them on the site, see how they work, and improve on that functionality. And the other thing that we have is that stability and architecture may overrule business requirements. That also means sometimes we get requests from the business to build certain things for the site, but when we decide, okay, that might be a security issue, that might be something that puts too much load on the page, we decide basically to give them a rain check, say, no, we don't want to do that. Yeah. So we have the ability also as a tech team to say no, which is quite important in our business. Okay, here are some technologies that we work with. Obviously, we are in the cloud. As you notice, cloud first means you need to deploy into the cloud. We are in the Google Cloud at the moment on a Kubernetes cluster. I will talk about that a little bit later. We use Docker quite heavily. We have a tech stack that mainly exists in the backend of Go code. We use Varnish and Elasticsearch quite heavily. Redis is a component, and obviously Statamic for the editorial part and some Vue.js parts to extend the Statamic functionality and some other bits and pieces. So it's pretty obvious technology, something that you're probably familiar with in some areas. Most of that things are actually open source, and we try to use open source as much as we can, but obviously we're also keen to, if we find a product that is license-based, we don't mind to pay a license for that, if that makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about what actually triggered our technology decision. So in 2018, the Spiegel decided to revamp the website, and not only that, but also to start a discussion about the website at that time, which actually was that the website was branded Spiegel Online, and the magazine was called Der Spiegel. And that was quite confusing in the market. What is the print magazine? What is the online magazine? And with this relaunch, the group decided, okay, to rebrand everything to Der Spiegel, even the online part. And also basically put the editorial team together. So before that, we had an editorial team for print and one for online. And this relaunch basically decided, okay, we'll put everybody into one group. This is called Der Spiegel. We will rebrand everything, and we need to have a new system for that. And the brief that we received at that time was actually this. So to provide Der Spiegel, which was a new brand then, with a modern content management system that supports online and print publishing from a single system. And you probably people that are familiar with print publishing here will probably raise the eyebrows now. This is actually quite a heavy task to have one solution for both. And this is something that surprised us as well a little bit. We said, okay, that makes absolutely sense. We will have a look what we can build. And we decided at that point, we'll start with online and see how we can integrate print later. And 1.5 years later, after starting the online part, we were able actually to include the print publishing solution completely into the workflow. So everything that we publish today starts in a single system, starts in Statamic, and then based on the editorial decision, the story is published to the online part or to the print publication. The other brief here was obviously that the system should be fully cloud-based and secure and scalable. At that time, everything we had was on-premise solutions, and to move everything we do as a media business into the cloud was quite a risk for us, and took a lot of discussion with the general management and security advisors if we should do that. At the end, we decided to do it, and this was basically another very important area for us, and a lot of design decisions that we made were actually focused on that decision. So in 2018, the UX team presented us this screenshot here. We said, okay, this is how it should look in the future. So that's the new brand. And as you can see from the screenshot, it shows a responsive design. Till that day, we had 3 separate websites. We had one for the app, we had one for mobile, and one for desktop. And with the move here to the new design, they said, okay, the site should be fully responsive, should work on every device, and should follow the design guidelines that they basically have built. And for us as a tech team, we had a big question then, and the big question was basically buy or build. So as a media company, the obvious choice would be, okay, let's go to the market and try to identify a CMS system that is out there, that is used in an enterprise environment, that can be used for the things that have been presented. And after going through a list of things, we basically said, okay, before we can do that, let's have a look what we have. And we came up with the good, the bad, and the ugly, actually, which was actually, we had a very old infrastructure. So upgrading something on this infrastructure was almost impossible. We had a very classical hardware hosting, which involved actually paying for hardware upfront, almost 2 years upfront, which means if you need to talk about scalability, you must almost know what will happen in 2 years, which is impossible. So we're always oversizing your infrastructure. And obviously there were a lot of costs involved in doing that. So that's something we said, okay, this is independent from the system that we will choose, this is something we'll need to eliminate. The other thing was that the editorial interface at that time, which also was a homegrown product, was built for the Internet Explorer 6 and only able to be run on the Internet Explorer 6. So, which obviously was also a big bummer because this browser was not supported anymore on the Windows world. As I said, the website was not responsive, though that was another thing. And the other thing is we had almost no reader inside. So we know obviously classical tracking information, but we haven't had a lot of insight about our paying customers and advertising numbers, things like this. So that was another thing we said, okay, if we want to have that information for the future to make business decisions, we also need to revamp our complete tracking stack for that. What we knew actually was some other numbers. We had about 20 million users a month. We had about 2.6 billion requests every month, 1 million articles in the system, 2 million assets, and about 350 users that work on Spiegel Online in the editorial interface. From a SEO perspective, we were told actually we need to maintain 1 million article URLs that are already exist in the internet. So there was no way that we can introduce a new system that will eliminate the existing URLs that are spread around the world. So we need to maintain them, and we need to make sure that we actually don't have a SEO drop, which was also a very heavy task for us in choosing a system. And talking about these numbers and the requirements that we saw before, or the facts that we saw before, was actually, okay, what do we do? And we scanned obviously the market, but couldn't really find a solution out there that will fulfill all our requirements. And that was basically the idea, okay, what do we do? And that's when we said, okay, we need to build something new. And this is actually what we call Polygon today. And Polygon is not a product, it's not a CMS, it's more a philosophy, how we build things internally. So coming from a traditional stack here on the left side, where we have a classical CMS, we have web servers, we have a database, we have classical infrastructure, various output formats, we decided, okay, we want to go into what we call cloud first, which means, okay, everything needs to be able to run in the cloud and needs to be run natively in the cloud. That means we don't only want to shift certain server instances on a VM and move that VM into the cloud. Everything what we build today needs to be able to run completely stateless in the cloud. Yes, and we haven't made a decision at that point what cloud it will be. As I said, we are now on Google at the moment, but technically we are able to switch the cloud at any time. We don't use any proprietary services. We can move our services tomorrow probably to AWS or to Microsoft, wherever we want. Yeah, and we may do that for political or financial or technical decisions. So today we are completely in the cloud, and that was the idea. The drivers for this was basically simplicity in design and operation. So we tried to identify the things that we actually need as a media house. So we tried to identify, okay, what are the requirements about the editorial system? What do we need for the delivery? What do we need to make a paywall happen, for example? How do we integrate services like single sign-on and so on? And we tried to divvy that up into various components. We also had a driver for scalability, which obviously works in the cloud, as you all know, which was very important for us. We wanted to be very future-proof, so we decided to start on a green field. Everything that we have built was from the ground up, and we tried to be very fast-moving. So with a very small team, we decided, okay, we'll have 12 months to come up with a technology solution with a stack that can actually help us to shift the whole site from the old technology stack into the new one. Yeah, and how do we did that? Basically, what we tried to build was a modular architecture. So we decided to identify elements and components that build our system. And if you look to Polygon, this is actually where it comes from. So we identify elements, a component, and that actually builds the system. So on a higher level, this for us means, okay, we try to identify what is the content creation part. And obviously this is Statamic for us. So we found Statamic when we were actually looking for a feature-rich editorial interface. And we actually were blown away by the ease of user interface, the flexibility around the content type, the content field, the blueprints, all that good stuff. We decided, okay, that's a very good fit for us. File system storage wasn't. So we had to come up with something where we said, okay, if we want to store content and we want to store content in the number of millions, we need to find another solution for it. And this is what we call internally the content store. The content store is a web service that provides an interface to Statamic to save everything that you would normally save in the file system in the cloud storage. On top of this information is also get indexed in an Elasticsearch index. I will show you that a little bit later, how that fits together from a technology point of view. And this is where we store our information. And the third triangle here, which is the blue one, is actually the content delivery. This is the part that is responsible for rendering the site. So in a way, you would, if you compare that to existing systems in the market, you would probably call that headless in a way. It's the same approach. However, we have a lot of more components than these three. We have components that we actually need to build the site. So if we go dig a bit deeper, we can see we have the editorial system, and this is Statamic. We have a topic planning component. This is where our editorial tries to organize their work, try to put their scheduling in place, what topic or what news item will be run where. This was a third-party solution as well. When I created this chart, this is now part of Statamic as well, and I think Jonas will show you that a little bit later. We have in the middle as I said, the content store, which is responsible for storing the information. We have the content index that gives us fast access to the information that is in the content store, and we have various other little services that provide messaging buses, image services for cropping, video services for video, and so on. And on the delivery side, we use a caching technology from Varnish. Some of you may be familiar with that. We use a paywall integration that we have built ourselves, which is on top of a technology called Skipper, which is a product from a company called Zalando, which is like a reverse proxy technology that we use to identify the payload that comes from a user and gives users access to the information that we have. And then we have other bits and pieces that basically provide information to subscription, render the content itself, and a search technology for the website. So in a landscape, you can see there are various components, various polygons here that actually build our site, and this is made to change. So we can see now 2 years later running the system that we have more requirements, so more technologies will basically be added to the polygon stack, and other components will be changed or removed. This is for us a natural process. The team has built a setup where we can easily integrate more services. We have defined some rules internally, how technology should fit together, what technologies are a good fit for us. The most important thing is actually technology needs to be available for the cloud. Yeah. So if we identify something that would be maybe of interest but does not fit in our cloud strategy, we will not integrate it into our stack. So, and the benefits for us are actually with this modular system, we have a very service and future-oriented architecture. It's very easy for us to change things, and obviously to also, from a product perspective, make very fast changes to the user interface, to the product, as we have basically this decoupled architecture. Okay, let's dig a little deeper, and let me look for time. We're 17 minutes in. Okay. Technical infrastructure. As I said, we are fully in the cloud. We are in the Google Cloud in a Kubernetes cluster, and what you see here on the stack is basically the access for the users, for the end users, going through the load balances in the cloud, going into our content stack, and then entering the inside to the delivery. And this is probably a slide that is more obvious. So at the front here, we have Skipper, which is our access. That's where our paywall is actually happening. This is our reverse proxy that controls everything. And then this access hits the warning caching infrastructure, where we cache the information that is coming through the render engine, through the HTML template rendering process. The important bit here is we don't render from Statamic directly. So Statamic is our editorial interface. It provides information to the content store. This information is stored via an NSQ, which is a messaging bus, into the cloud storage, and it's indexed in the Elasticsearch. So whenever you hit a site from us or a page from us, the page is rendered, if available, from the Varnish cache. If not, this request will hit the render engine, and this information will then ask for the right information from the Elasticsearch index for this article. So we don't use the inbuilt Statamic Entler templates or GraphQL interface or REST API. We basically are running completely out of this Elasticsearch index. And the reason for this is that obviously we have a lot of requests coming in, and due to the concept of a decoupled system, we never want to give users the opportunity to bring down our editorial system. So we try to decouple that stuff as much as we can. And that's the reason why we're actually completely independent in that area. I'll quickly go through some of these things in more detail due to the time, because I think you're all interested to see how we use Statamic at the Spiegel. I'll probably rush a little bit through that. If you have further questions regarding that in more detail, we are probably able to go through that after our presentation. So as I said, Statamic here at the top is our editorial system. You all know that. Here are some other services that actually integrated from our Statamic interface. We have, sorry, some of the things are still in German, which is, we have an image system called Elvis, which is a third-party solution provided by a Dutch company called Woodwing, which holds our image repository. It's a third-party software that we integrated into Statamic. So whenever an editorial user decides to place an image on the page, they're actually searching for that image in the Elvis system, and when they select it, the image will be transferred into the Statamic asset pool, and it's then available after that in that cloud storage pool and can be rendered on the page. So we basically, that means that we have an additional image repository system on top, which is quite important because we also use these images in other locations, and the whole rights management and processing is done in that system. We have some further integrations for video. We use JW not only as a player, but also as a video solution. So all our raw videos are stored in JW, which is also a cloud solution. Users can, from Statamic, pick videos from there. We have other services like Affiliate, where we provide information from affiliate services like Amazon on our page, and there are some heavy integrations from an editorial point of view into these services that users can quickly pick affiliate products and other things and place it on the page. That's what you all know. So that's how our interface looks like. Jonas will show you that in a minute. Probably things that you haven't seen so far in Statamic is, obviously you have seen the live preview, but our live preview has some little add-ons. We decided to give our users the opportunity to do also the homepage management through Statamic. So we have built something that makes it a bit easier for them to drive to a longer page. So we see that little green boxes here that gives you access to the left and to the right side. Basically, it helps you to scroll through the page and gives you easier access to the information on the page. We have some other bits and pieces here where users can show various responsive points of the website, where they can say if they want to see the paywall information or if they want to show advertising and so on. So there are some switches that we have built on top of the classical Statamic live preview view, but that was very important for us, and so far that works very well for us. Everything that we see on our page, on the Spiegel page, is built in Statamic. And the main features that we see right now in Statamic, obviously the biggest one for us is multi-user editing. So you know that there is this add-in which right now exists out of the Pusher technology as a separate repro. We use that quite heavily because we have normally more than 2 or 3 users in an article. So we have various editors doing various changes. For us, it's very important to understand who's in the article, who's working on what field, what is actually changing. So that was a big pro for us choosing Statamic as a solution. The other thing was the ease of integrating new things. So pushing articles to the world, doing a web push from a newly written article into a mobile device is very important for us. So we have a very tight integrations where people actually can write the message straight from the article, click a push button here, and this will trigger a service and distributes that information to the cloud services that are responsible for the pushing. Another thing is that our editor is actually able to select the payment integration, so they can choose if the article is free on the website, if it's paid, or what we call dynamically paid, which is a decision that we do on user segments. So our BI teams are actually able to flag users depending on the use of the site, and depending on that segment level, we can actually show and hide this pay information for certain articles. We tried that actually to drive access and conversion into our subscription products. Another thing that was very important for us, as I said, was actually integrating services. We have a text service built that allows us to automatically extract named entities from an article. This is to improve or to make it easier for the user, for the editorial user, to write their articles. So the system will, after you've written the article, go through the text and identify people, organization, and geographic locations. And as soon as these matches actually are matched on our what we call topic pages, which are separate pages for politicians, for example, or geographic areas, we will identify that matches and create automatically the appropriate links for this in the system. So this makes it much easier for the editorial users to link content on the site, which obviously is important from a sales perspective. The other thing is, as I said, integration into other systems. Here we have a quick little screenshot of JW, which is the video system. So whenever I want to use a video on the site, I don't need to worry about uploading the video or anything. I just go to a little picker application similar to the asset picker that you know from Statamic, to JW. I select my video and place it on the page. And obviously, the biggest pro for us is the very flexible content types in Statamic and the structures that we could build. So that's the Statamic part. Again, everything that we build then hits the content store, and I will skip through that and we'll probably have a look at the demo in a minute. The content store, as I said, is a cloud storage, which is hosted on Google, which saves JSON documents and images and other information, and this information then is delivered through the various interfaces from through Skipper, Varnish, and the render engine. So I will skip through that, and we'll probably go straight into this. Jonas, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Okay, I hope you can hear me. I'm on the land side here, so I hope the internet is stable. Should be fast, but you never know what the cows are doing around here. So let's start sharing that screen. This should be the right one. And well, I think you might be interested. Okay, a lot of words, interesting. Thanks a lot, André. But how does it look in Statamic? And I just want to show you how it does look. Obviously, this is Spiegel. This is how it does look. We'll look at the review system. It's kind of nearly a clone of the production environment. That's so we can play around a little without kind of doing funky stuff, which might end up in production. We don't want to do that. Just as we said, manager. So just you have seen those two. Those are the two pages we're talking about, and they are pretty similar. I mean, yeah, there's red and there's blue, but if you look into an article, let's do that. You can see they are pretty similar. Just so you have seen that. Okay. Let's log in.
Jonas?
Yes?
I can't see your screen. Is it just me or is it everyone?
Oh, let's change that one.
I could see it.
Okay,
yeah.
Then it's me.
What about this one?
Yep, sorry.
I can see that.
Yeah? Okay, cool. So you're seeing Statamic?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. I will move that one over here. That's better. So there's the dashboard. I mean, this is built our own, so you can switch between Spiegel and the Manager magazine, showing you the last articles and everything. And you can build that yourself. So this is not that fancy. So we've built a few widgets, and we got the JavaScript local storage to save what we've watched kind of the last time. So if this is set to Manager, it will stay that way. But that's kind of not that fancy. It's a few simple widgets. I made a fancy list here. Okay, so I want to start by showing a few things which you might not expect. So you do see there are a lot of collections called Sammlung in German, and actually we don't have any taxonomies. None of them. We don't have any globals. It's empty. And not having globals without using endless might not make that much sense. But Spiegel started building the system in a really, really early phase. And so we could build everything with the collections themselves. They are working really great until today. So there hasn't been any need using those. But yeah, I just think it's interesting. The topic planning. So this seems a little empty. I need to go to the date where it has been built. So there's a lot of demo content. This is in August, and this is a calendar holding a lot of information. So they can plan when to publish which articles. So we could go into the production system and see which articles would be there tomorrow, etc. So you see there are a few here, and it's not only kind of a planning tool, it's a task tool as well. So we'll open one, and it's always one article. It does say, okay, is this one on the page, on the home page, or maybe even not? And we can see where should it be published. Is it positioned like 1, or is it in the middle? So it's a little German course here as well. And let's open this one. I think this is good. So those are the tasks we'll take a look at. Just saying this, all the system has been built by Wiebke. She's here as well. So I'm just presenting it. She doesn't know much more about it if you got any questions. So you might see those are pretty standard fields. And the more interesting parts start down here. So those are all the tasks we have. I can just, collapse them once. And each task has something we can, what is it? We can say who has to do that task. So now it's me. I need to do some graphics. Not sure if that's a good idea. And now I can say, okay, it's my job to do that. I can say, okay, I started working on it. And at one time I can say I did finish it. And those graphics do change, and they are visible like here, how the status is. So we can see who did what. And the interesting part as well is on the dashboard, you get all your tasks listed right there. Now I said I'm finished, so it's not there. This is how like tasks are planned, how they are seeing who is doing what. And it might look a little bit like a little bit of information, but the interesting part, which is hard to show here, is that there are a lot of workflows behind it. So if I'm getting assigned a task, I'm getting a notification in Teams, etc. And there's a lot more behind that. So it's not only assigning tasks, as you know, but there's a lot of automation behind that for different tasks, of course. And so this is how everything is getting planned. So every editor is using this, we call it theme planning every day, to get their work done or to know what to do and to see how the state is of an article. So much about this part. Let's see. Oh yeah, cool. Let's look at something more obvious. let's take a look at an article. So one interesting part might be like the system is a little bit slow because I'm on the LAN side, but still it does contain 1.5 millions. I think in production there are 1.6 roundabout. We just took a look this morning, and like there is a photo, like something like an image gallery. There are in production, I think, like 30,000 or something. But all of those are managed here. And the fun thing is you can't see that we're using some kind of custom storage that's all code-wise. It's not that fun showing you that code, how it does work. It's pretty specific. But the UI, you can't see or you can't feel that you're using a custom integration. It's all behind about the interface. So as you might see, there's a normal listing, as you might know. Of course, making it easy to find things, we did use some scopes, so we could sort only to see like the manager magazine right here. And then there's, of course, a lot of filters. But those are the docs, so it's not of course, how we pull things, getting them from Elastic, but kind of the UI part is pretty basic. But the fun thing is, of course, we're having a lot of fun little extra things here and there. Let me find an article. I just chose this one because there are 1-2 features where I know that the community has asked for it, and we build it for our specific case. So you might be interested in seeing how those things are. So first of all, this is the article page. There are a lot of different titles, like the title, like something like a top title, I think that's the right translation, some SEO title, social title, etc. And then we got BART. So we are using BART pretty heavily, of course. This is the article. We are using some sets here. I think that's what you know. And I said there are a few gimmicks here and there. So one is kind of something like this, the yellow part. So I can see, okay, what's the reference for it? And now there's only Lucas games. So this is a review test. So I could say, okay, this year, Jack said this, or it's written on the Statamic page. So I can say, okay, cool. This is from statamic.com, maybe by Jack, whatever. And I can save that. And it's for an internal use. So if somebody says something, we can simply see who said it or where's that information from. Okay. Just some little broad extra things. And of course, there are some sets, etc. Some little own field types. So you won't find that one right there. We talked about like images. Let's find a different image. So this is Elvis André talked about. So it needs a little loading. I logged in this morning, but okay. Let's do it again. So we can search. So this feels pretty integrated. It's an external service and everything, but it feels simply integrated. As it's here, I think with an iframe and that stack. So I could say, okay, I want an image with jazz. I won't find anything, but let's take a look at that crowd. So I can see all the information from our external service. It's slow because of my connection here. And if I say, yep, that's the one, we can simply say, send it to Statamic. And I see I'm not allowed doing that. That's a pity. But that's the way it does work. So we can select those things. And if we did select them, they will be shown right there. So here we do have some extra information, like some alt text, credits, and all that stuff. That's the part from Elvis. We're using revisions, but and this is kind of one feature which I think it's pretty cool, is the history. So you might think, okay, who made which changes? And that can be seen right here. Let's go to the start and let's see, okay, like in this time frame. So this is the 27th of August to right here. Let's put it side by side and let's take a quick look here. Okay, we see some sets have been changed. We're not rendering those, but we can see, okay, somebody was not happy with like how we've written this one. So it did change. And we can simply check all the changes that has been made. So we can simply check the last change right here. And we do see, let's take the overview. Not that much here. Oh yeah, so we can see something got embedded here. So we could take a look. It's a different image. That's kind of the revision, how to say it, revision history, I think that's the name. Some debugging stuff, there's a little button so we can see all the JSON here. And some more little buttons are like, we could push that article and we could say, okay, this is really important. Now I could send it out. And if it would be in production, everyone having the Spiegel app on the phones would get that notification, that kind of stuff. We looked at the planning part. It's integrated, of course. We can see who made which changes. And yeah, kind of collections as taxonomies and stuff like that. But of course, there's the live preview, as you might know. So we can check those as well. And we could take a look, okay, how does it look with advertisement, for example? And we could say, okay, that's fine. Or we could rearrange the text, of course. That's how you know it from Statamic. And we could as well take a look, how does it look with a paywall? And we need to say, okay, this one might be a paid article. Let's activate that paywall. And we can see how it does look with that advertisement and with that paywall. One more interesting part is like the homepage or the homepage collection. So it does kind of, 1 second, let's load. This is where we can, yep, I want to stay here. This is where we can arrange the real page, like the real homepage. This is the page you go to if you're going on spiegel.de. And as you might see, it's pretty long. And you might get lost here. So you can see those little funny green arrows here. It's not a design, it's not any design decision. It's if you want to say, okay, I want to change this part, I can simply click on it and the left part will scroll to that block right there. Or the other way around, if we're like, I don't know, let's choose something, maybe this part, this theme block. We can say, okay, let's show how it does work or where it is and how it does look. We are right there. I could say, hey, Statamic, and it will re-render in a second. Yep, as you might see, or we can simply say, bring it back. And here we go. So I know that those little arrows has been requested from the community. And let's take a quick look. Yeah, I think those are some interesting bits from here. There's much more to cover, much more in-depth things, but I think it's giving a great overview how Statamic is used, so how it's pretty custom, but still pretty Statamic as well. That's kind of always the balance we try to do, doing our goals, but we want to update Statamic, so we can't go too custom. I got the presentation here as well, stole it from André. And we said that we want to tell what we're working on. So my colleague Wiebke and I have been heavily working on two things actually. So we heard stuff about collaboration, and we are actually working on rewriting collaboration from scratch and bringing collaboration into core. And the thing that is much more interesting is Pusher is great and you can use it and you can buy it, but setting up Pusher for each website, that's pretty a pain. So we are working on things that you can install Statamic, that you can say in the config, we want to use collaboration, and then it does simply work. And we think it's a pretty huge win. There are still some details, and of course we aren't finished yet. Otherwise, we would show the finished product. There's a lot of details, and this recursive fun, having a bar, and inside that bar, the grid field, and inside that grid field is a bar again, and getting that right is a lot of work. But the new thing, maybe you haven't used collaboration now, is that if you're using the collaboration add-on right now and you're typing in the bar field, all the text will be synchronized. So if the text is 2 pages long and you would add one A, simply one letter, the complete barred content would be sent to you. And this does take a lot of bandwidth. And if you're now typing one A, it will only send that A across and say, hey, at position 355, there's a new A letter. Make it happen. And so we're saving a lot of bandwidth. There are different providers. So we are looking at 2 providers. One is kind of called peer-to-peer. So the computers are synchronizing themselves. There's only a need for a signaling service, a signaling server knowing which clients are online, which computers should be synced. But if you're later saying, okay, we wanna use it pretty heavily, that would be our option. We would use a WebSocket server. There's more traffic on it, but it's a little more reliable if you're using it with a lot of users. So you can simply choose that you want to use peer-to-peer or WebSocket, and then it's kind of working. You need a WebSocket server, of course, but you can spin one up. It's not on a little scale. That should be pretty straightforward. Auto-resolve merge conflicts. Well, that does mean that changes will be merged into each other. Saying so, if somebody is kind of offline or online, if you're typing and rewriting something while you're offline, maybe you got a bad connection because you have a landside or on the train, and you're getting online a few seconds or minutes later on, your changes will be merged. In the old collaboration, the last kind of state does win. So if you're getting online and typing at the time, maybe because of the bad timing, your state would be pushed to all other users. So if other users have to work and they've been online maybe, all the changes will be gone. They're completely gone. No way to get that back. And in our case, there's online-offline support, and it does merge those things. So the changes are not gone. Might not sound like that much, but it's a pretty huge improvement. You can work in the same fields at the same time. You can see cursors in some fields, and it's there as well. We did integrate some autosave as well, and you can decide in which collection, and you can decide how many seconds it should be. There might be pages where it does not make sense having autosave, but in an article with revisions turned on, it will be pretty helpful. But yeah, let's take a look. I think that's the best thing to do. So Wiebke will help out. I need to relog in. We are in an article. Let me simply reload. So we got the fish theme. So everything we do for testing has something to do with a fish. Jack already knows that. So I've got it open 2 times, so you can simply see in the left or right thing that it does change. But you will see Wiebke's changes as well. There's small things like that you can see that multiple tabs are open. So they will synchronize, but we thought it would be fine showing that it's open. So yeah, maybe Wiebke will kind of write something in the teaser or anything. I could change the title. Tuna is a great fish, and you see that's fine. But what we even can do is Wiebke thinks I'm a little slow typer, So she would love typing something in the start of the title, and I can type something here. So we can simply type on the same element. And of course, if we're moving to BART, there's a little extra here. There's a slash command, so I don't need to leave that keyboard. We can say slash. Oh, wrong layout. And I could choose something there. But we can type in here as well. So I can mark something. You can see on the right side that it's marked. We can do that as well. We can type at the same time, of course, some typing here and there. She can work in it as well. I can even change the full mode. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, if I prefer it that way, let's say I want to add some assets here. Oops, let's take that image. I think it's fine. And you see it's here on the right side as well. So it's simply getting updated. And if Wiebke doesn't like that image, you can go in there and change it as well. You see, she didn't like it, so she did remove it. Those are only a few field types, so we can, now you see the different image here. She doesn't like this one better. That's a great choice. And of course, if we're taking a look into this media button control, there's a lot of stuff we can do. So let's find a YouTube video. It has to do something with Statamic, of course. So let's grab one. Search. That's always good. And yep, you see it's still updating. So we can push that button group as well. Wiebke can do that as well. And we got a range and all those things. Let's find a great color. Maybe this blue. Let's save it. Let's select it right there. But let's put tuna first so we can simply drag and drop. Oh, not with this one, my fault. Other fields can do that. And that's all like that. So let's go into users, select them all. That's fine, it's updating. And then we can say, okay, Wiebke should be on top. And Jason and Jesse, Jack should be together, something like that. And you see, it's all simply updating. And if we're moving around some bits, for example, it's not sending all the field. That's the special part here. It will only tell, okay, like Jonas has been removed. Remove him. That's all that goes through the internet. So we're saving a lot of bandwidth. And yeah, of course, we got some replicator fields as well. So there's still some work with this nested stuff, but we can add those, and Wiebke's typing theirs, and I can say, hey, Wiebke. So we can simply collaborate and work together without any restrictions and with a pretty fast feeling, as it's really snappy as the bandwidth is being saved a lot. Yeah, so this is kind of one big feature we're working on. And a few years ago, it might have been an enterprise like feature, but nowadays everybody knows Microsoft Office, Google Docs, and everybody does expect it that so it does work. And the special thing in Statamic is that it does work even with not one document like BART, but in all fields. So you can work on all fields. So you could work on main, she could work on the sidebar, and everything does get updated all the time. But one last feature. So I could add a headline here, a nice tuna fish. Let's make it a headline. And hi there, hey Wiebke. And Wiebke does go offline. So if Wiebke does go offline, we will see it in a few seconds as she will be gone. Let's see. That needs to recognize it first. Sometimes it does take a few more seconds. And then we can edit like the same pieces right here and there.
I think I'm offline. It's okay.
Now you're gone. Okay. So I could set a nice tuna fish, but this headline should be longer. Hi there. Hi Wiebke. hijack. Now she can change change something as well right in there. And if she comes online, it will be merged. Let's see when she does get online again. So no changes are lost or anything. It will simply get merged. And you see what I've written is still there. Cool. But if I don't like it, I can remove it afterwards. Cool. That's the part on collaboration. As said, it's pretty early right now, and we are now working on all the recursive fun, getting that right. And let's see, but that's something we are looking forward to. And like the next big thing, which is pretty short, of course it's 6 o'clock already, is a REST driver. So there's the stash, this is the default driver. There's the Eloquent driver, of course, and we are working on a REST driver. So as you've seen in that presentation, we want to decouple everything, and we are. And we have some hard-coded things for Elasticsearch, and we want to change that completely. So we will talk to an interface. It's simply a REST interface, not that fancy, but imagine what you can do with Statamic talking to an interface. If you're crazy enough, you could build your own service for content storage or whatever, and your site could only talk through that service via that interface. We are using it in the cloud. That's a huge win for us. So if one of our services does change, like the search service, we only need to implement a new search service and need to create an endpoint there. So we can send our JSON or our JSON data in there and say, hey, we wanna search for whatever we're sending them, and it will get returned, and we don't care what service is being used. So it's pretty modular there. I'm not sure what people might come up with if we're using it ourselves, but I think you can do pretty fun things with it, and it's decoupling everything. I don't know yet what it might be will be used to do, but I'm sure there will be some interesting parts. So I think that's what we wanted to show. Thanks a lot for listening, and I hope it has been interesting, at least a little. And if there are questions or if you want to talk about something, feel free to.
Let me just say thank you first. That was awesome. Fantastic presentation. And we're super excited about seeing some of the stuff come into Core and working out the final details with you guys. Thank you. Questions? You got the Spiegel team here. Anybody have any questions?
No questions. Everybody's speechless, I guess. I thought, we were taking Statamic into some kind of extremes, but yeah, I'm gonna chill out, I guess.
I have a question regarding the revision history. Any plans to open source this as well, or plans to merge it to Core in the future?
That was the first time I've seen that feature. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a valid question.
I think we're happy to share the code for this. We have not added all fields that we have for that view, which was a requirement here internally, but we are more than happy to discuss with you guys how that can be, if it's of interest, integrated into the core. Why not? Sure.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
I'd love it, because a client just asked me yesterday for a feature like that.
Yeah, we were just talking about that on Discord last night, weren't we?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So maybe you can just chat and you give me the direction where to start to implement it by myself. But I think it would take some effort and time.
Yeah.
I think that's a feature that's probably been asked by quite a lot of customers or people working with it. We actually do have a lot of requests in this direction with more options for revisions in history and to see what other people did. So, and I guess that all the collaboration features are going to be things that a lot of people and teams are working with Statamic are going to really appreciate.
Yeah.
Apart from these, like the big things, like these little things that you showed to us, like these little scroll to this content, is there many plans on implementing this, or when would this be part of Core? Is there anything about that?
We haven't discussed that yet, but Jack, it's another one for you for your list.
Yeah, sure. We can put it on the list. I mean, it all depends on how they've got it built, how unique it is to their particular front end in the content store, and whether it's really, if it's really generic and abstracted, then it would be easier to implement, versus we could take inspiration from what they've done and we could do our own version of features as well, depending on whatever things seem to be the most useful for the most users, for sure. Yeah. That was a really cool feature too. I figured out how to do it in my own head while we were watching it. But would require you to do a little bit of front-end implementation. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's not on the top list of priorities, obviously, but that's one of the things that we have had customers asking, because especially with longer pages and longer fields for all the blueprints, obviously gets slightly messy and collapsing everything and jumping up and down, seeing where it is. Actually, I think that would help quite a lot of people.
Yeah, I like it.
Really cool though. Thanks for the presentation. It's really great.
Yeah.
If you guys aren't using Antlers, what template language are you using to deliver templates?
We're actually using template language called Jet, which is a template language that is implemented in Go. So the thing that we have seen on the right side in the live preview is everything every time re-rendered through that rendering engine. So we don't use the enter templates, as I mentioned. We use our own rendering stack. So whenever you do a change on the left side, it's pushed to a service that is completely re-rendering everything on the right side. But obviously that's exchangeable. You can do that in any technology. But for us, we decided to do that in Jet because the requirements that we had around turnaround time for re-rendering was quite high. So we went with Go at that time and the Jet language.
Part is, which is not the Laravel standard way, is that it's not going through Laravel or Statamic at all. So it's getting saved at a different place, and then the services are, reading that file directly, so they are not touching Statamic at all at that point. So,
yeah, which makes sense at scale.
I'm curious about the Polygon concept. I read on your website or on the Polygon Rocks site that you offer this as a service as well. So this whole concept, and do you already have other clients which use the whole setup, like you use it at Spiegel, or parts of it, or?
Yes, what we have built is what we call the starter kit, which we hand over to other companies, and we help other companies to build or use that as a starting block to build their own system. So we try, what we think is it's important that whoever runs with our technology needs to be in the driver's seat. So we try to offer consulting services. We offer this technology, the things that we have built. We don't charge a license for this. So we basically find an agreement based on a consulting work where we hand over the base stack to build your own system. And depending on your requirements, on the stack that you are familiar with, on the cloud technology that you want to use, you can use that as building blocks and pick that individual components that we have and integrate that into a system.
This is obviously more for bigger clients or bigger companies.
It depends.
Whether do you start? Yeah.
It depends. So we have one client right now, which is, I would say, probably a mid-range website. However, they have a part on the website which is not a classical CMS part, so rendering content. It's more integrating users and doing questionnaires with that users. So it's not a media company as we are, but they found that this technology actually would fit them very well in structuring their content and data. And they also love Statamic. So that's the reason why I decided, okay, we want to use Statamic on the editorial bit. That was an easy sale for them to this content team. But they also said, okay, they have quite complex structures for when it comes to JSON information, and they want to be fully in the cloud. So they decided to go with AWS, and they're right now in the process of building their own system. And we help them along, basically suggesting how certain things could fit together. We have handed over that starter kit, which helps them to build things. And then I hope that they can run with that stuff probably in 2 or 3 months completely on their own and build their own system.
Mm. So basically your developer team is doing this work as well, besides its regular work on the Spiegel website.
Yes.
Right?
So
okay.
yeah,
so it's actually another revenue stream for your company or for the tech lab.
Yeah, but it's more about giving people information, handing over this information and enabling them. So we don't want to build other websites. We don't want to run a stack, which is probably a bit misleading on the Polygon Rocks website. We thought about that, but we decided to focus on our own media business. So it's basically, Jet, we want to share this information. We are quite open in the way how we have built things, and we try to contribute a lot of open source technologies and things. So that's the reason why we're also very happy to share things like collaboration in the future, which I believe is key, because moving collaboration into the core, into Statamic, is a very important thing for us, because collaboration right now is an add-on that we need to install on top of Statamic, and it lives kind of next to it. And we have done little improvements over the time to be able to handle the load that we have. So we have right now about 600 editorial users at a certain point in time in the system working on various articles. And to manage this, the existing collaboration struggles a little bit. So we have certain situations where we lose information, where certain things are unclear. So that's the reason why we believe this new collaboration that Jonas and Wiebke have showed you is very important. And moving this to core will actually, from our point of view, bring Statamic to the next level. This is where it really distinguishes itself from WordPress and other solutions out there, because collaboration is built in. It's as built in as you would expect it from Figma, from Notion and other websites. So, and if that becomes part of core, that we think it's a game changer for this CMS system.
Yeah. Really excited about it.
I'd be interested in your print workflow. Like, how does that work? Like, as I understand, all the content is still in Statamic, but at some point it has to get into InDesign or whatever you use for the layout, right? So how does that work?
Okay, Jonas showed you this topic planning component, which was this calendar view that we had. So when we decide to write about a story, the editorial users do one thing first, which obviously is describing the story. So let's say we want to write about this event, and they also think at that point in time, okay, where should that be published? Of course, we'll publish everything online, but they can also make the decision, okay, this is an article for our weekly magazine, which then means they have certain fields that they can fill in, which are linked back to our page planning component. So we use Woodwing Enterprise as the print publishing product. I don't know if you know it. So it's okay. So it makes it easier for me to explain. So the print publishing component actually gives us information about the issues that are commissioned, the pages that are available, the zones that are available in that magazine. All this information is transferred into the topic planning component, and also provides information about the length of the article. So this information is stored in the topic, and as soon as you start to write an article in Statamic that is linked to this topic, you will see a bar underneath the BART component which shows the editor how long this article should be, reflecting the planning from the print component. So they know they need to write for length. Let's say you have a one-pager, and on that one-pager you already know that there's heavy imagery on it, so you may only have, I don't know, a few thousand words available for that. And you will see a little bar growing, and obviously there's no black and white, because depending on the page layout that can differ in print. So we try to be more or less 10-15% up and down from the perfect size for print. And as soon as this article is written, it will basically go through the workflow, the things that have been defined as tasks within the topic. As Jonas said, there's a lot of automatic notification behind the scenes. So whenever this job is commissioned, let's say the editor-in-chief needs to review the story. We have a lot of stories that need to go through our legal departments and information services department to get fact-checked. All these things need to be checked. All the checks are reflected in Teams messages that are pushed out to the teams to notify them they have to do something. They can go then back into the system, into Statamic, they do their work, and as soon as they're done with the work, they click a button in Statamic to mark basically that the task is done. This also then is reflected in the history that we have seen. So there, if you remember from the history, the little dots on top of the history line. Every step that you do, so whenever you say, okay, this thing has been fact-checked, that also results in a revision of that article at that point in time. So we basically freeze the article whenever a task is completed to make sure if something gets lost on the way, we can always go back and revert back to that revision history. So as soon as all this work is done and all tasks are completed, certain users have an action where they can actually hand over this JSON document into the print workflow, which then is pushed through an API workflow into the Woodwing enterprise system and is automatically placed on a page that has been identified for that page type. And then people go in and do channel-specific modification that could be changing for lengths, rewriting the headline in the last minute, which is absolutely fine with us. However, these changes are not reflected back into the online system because these are then channel-specific decisions, and we only basically do a cutoff at that point in time when we hand over that version. Make sense?
Makes sense. Thank you so much. It's really interesting.
You're welcome.
Just as a follow-up question, just to clarify, like the history so that you showed us is not really like we have the revision history now. So as in I save the article, write the new revision, and this creates one of these slots in your history, but it is actually like connected to this workflow. So whenever one of the workflow steps is completed, then a new point in time is created?
Yes.
Or is it, okay.
Yeah, it's basically that we can also create revisions, not only from creating that revision button for a user manually, we can also do that automatically in the background.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So, and just one question, like all the legal team and the editor-in-chief and everything that you mentioned, all these are using the same Statamic interface to fact check and read and everything. So there's no like preview section or something that if someone else is using, it's always through the Statamic system.
It's always through the Statamic system. However, there's one little thing that we had to build for our information services department for the fact checking. You can actually download the Statamic article as a Word document. So wow. What is that for? You have seen the little yellow highlighting that Jonas showed you, where you can actually put source information about an article in. So what we have is we have a lot of reporters in the field, and obviously they are asked if they write an article to highlight where this information is coming from. So we as a news magazine try to be very precise to identify where this information comes from, where it was mentioned, who was involved, and so on. And to give the information services team some hints where I need to basically do the fact checking, the editors can actually put this information into Statamic, highlight the text area, put the information in, and this actually is then reflected in what is called comments in Word. So you know the Word view where you have the normal text and then those little note things on the side. Yeah. So all these yellow things that you have seen in Statamic are actually translated to these notes. And what they do is they go into that Word document, and if they have questions, they can actually highlight that in Word. So they have a kind of that offline workflow. And reason for this is that this is normally done while the article is continuously written or rewritten through the editor. Yeah, so there could be changes in the way that we do from a production perspective, and we don't want to slow down the information services fact-checking part at that time. So that's the reason why they have kind of that offline version. However, we also mark that. So whenever you download this Word document, there's also a revision created. So, and if we have, I don't know, a discussion later on about who has done what in the article, and maybe that fact has been dropped or is not clear, they can easily go back through that revision history slider and see, okay, who has dropped this line, why it was corrected or not. So that gives a lot of transparency around the article and how it will work.
Wow. Yeah, thanks. Sounds pretty extensive.
It is.
I'm curious about. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm curious about how do you deal with the Statamic updates? Like if the core team changed how the blueprints work or something like that, does it affect you a lot since the data you have to change your data store or something like that?
Jonas, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. Or Jack, do you want to?
We don't do any big things without telling Spiegel. It's kind of the secret.
No, actually, if there are bigger changes, Jason or Jack or Jesse do reach out, actually. But of course, if we wouldn't have built, I think, custom implementations, updates would be pretty easy. But the thing is a little that we are hooking pretty deeply into JavaScript, that we are fetching a lot of information from the UX store, that we are hooking into a lot of parts where you normally aren't going that often. So the update does take a little longer, I think, because we will test it if everything is still working. And as you might have seen, there are a lot of features. So we aren't taking every update. I think one update every 3-4 months, maybe something like that. Does depend a little. So right now we're working on the update 3.2 to 3.3. So we're a little behind here, but yeah, this update is a little bigger for us, but I think because it's a major update kind of, but little updates are a little faster. But sure, if some JavaScript things do change, which you normally would not, which normally wouldn't affect you, do often affect us. So it's quite some work, but it's still manageable. I think that's maybe a good description.
Thank you.
So the only thing for really making Statamic the perfect publishing platform is the feature missing for the, what was it, custom publish something. I think, Jonas, you got something open PR or something about that, like draft or published or whatever. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, I do. I think
like
you can't.
Thing missing.
Yeah, I think you can't say that because like every publishing house has their own ways and workflows. I think that's the most hard thing, that everybody is doing things a little differently and want to use different services, etc. But sure, the publishing part would be a great part. So I think I haven't done it. I mean, I'm not that long in the Spiegel team, so a lot of things I showed, most of them haven't been built by me. Obviously, I think didn't we build some custom publishing state something? Nope. Okay. I know there's something in there, but yeah, it's not a PR, it's an idea. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's an idea.
That would be pretty helpful. So it could, instead of being published or not, it could reflect different states. I think you like the PR, that's why you're mentioning it. Oh, that idea, yeah.
One more question about the collaboration you showed us. I suppose cursors on the page are not an option, right? In the current implementation, like you know it from Figma or something.
Yeah, we we did think about it, and it's not that it's not an option. And maybe you got a different opinion, and maybe that might get changed. But if there are like a few more people, it does feel like then there are maybe 5 cursors flying around, and you want to write your text, so it might feel pretty disturbing. That's what we felt, kind of, as we had a little demo with that for ourselves. But the part that has been missing, and that is Jag is working on that, and we had it implemented at one time, but we rework things and throw it out once. Later on, you will be able seeing who's working in which field. So right now, if you know collaboration, you can see who's working in that field and it's blocked. But later on, you will be able to see, for example, that I'm working in that title field. You can join me, but all people then can see opening that page it's 2 of us working in that title field, for example. So
yeah, we'll like move the avatars around, or working on some of the UX options there, so you can see, might just might slide around from field to field, or it's maybe not the cursor, like you said, 5 cursors could be really annoying. But if you see a little avatar, like jump to this field and then jump to that one, that could be just as useful, if not even more so. It's the idea.
I mean, the cursor could be disable, right, if you want it.
Sure, everything could be a configuration.
Just make it happen. Like, who works 5 people at one article? Like, who does that? Maybe Spiegel? I don't know.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, how many people are working on an article at the same time at Spiegel?
Could be 6 or 7, depending on what time of day it is. Normally it would probably be 2 or 3, which would be something like an image editor, someone who's writing the text, probably a SEO editor coming in, checking the SEO headline. So 2 or 3 are pretty standard for us. But again, there's no end to it. We discussed the idea with the cursor. Again, our users are probably a bit afraid of it, getting annoyed. Someone, if I want to write a text, someone is moving the cursor above the text and things like this. But yeah, probably can be done. Why not?
But I think we're looking forward to your PR then, Michael, making this configurable.
Yeah, there's some solutions out there that can make that happen quite easily. So I think that's not a big thing to do, even on top of collaboration, if you want to.
All right, thank you. All 3 of you, thank you so much for taking the time to share all this with you. This is pretty great.
Thanks for having us.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yes. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Thanks.
Right. Take care.
Bye.